Hey, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing. How you doing?
I am doing great. Welcome, everyone, to the SquadCast. We are live. We are going to be talking to Zack Kaplan, comic book writer, very soon. And we're very excited for that. Before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about some stuff going on in comics. You wrote a article yesterday that went on popculturesquad.com about DC Comics and their minibuses, and I thought that's hilarious. And I will forever be calling them minibuses. Um, but what do you think about that? Like DC Comics is now coming out with, and we'll put it up here for everybody. You can check out the article later on, and it's in the comments. But so this is kind of what they're doing. We're going to have DC Comics doing taking some of their existing content, existing stories, and putting them in reprinting them in smaller sized formats. These are the three that they've talked about so far. And I don't know if there's too many more, but what's your take on it?
Well, I of the time, roughly 40 years ago, when Stan, we're just going to see what these next new format, and if it's any copy that, like we all, uh, I thought that was hilarious, also true,
Right.
and to what they'd been before. DC has always been.
Oh man, Mike, you're really it's really hard for me to hear you. I don't know.
We were having one before.
Yeah, we were having this problem earlier. I want to, if hopefully we can correct this out. But one of the things, kind of what you were getting at is that DC, has done different formats before. Everybody kind of copies everybody else. I wanted to kind of talk about this format, which is which was the digest format, the size of the Archie digests that DC did back in the day. And I love the fact that it's the name here is the biggest little buy in comics. Were you around? This was after you had left DC when they started doing this, right? You're just all held up. You're all held up. Well, I'm gonna pull you out, and we'll see if maybe
Okay.
We'll see if you can get you back in. Maybe you can leave it. Try and pop back in again. So, as we're talking here, like DC did this. This was a really cool thing. This would come out. They would do a blue ribbon digest, what they called, and it was a bunch of stories. Like this is 80 something, early 80s, and there were more of them. And at one point, even Adventure Comics went directly to the digest format, where you would have Adventure Comics at the time was doing both. Was doing a couple of different short stories in one. It wasn't. It was in this point was Challengers of the Unknown. There's usually a Legion story or two Legion stories in an issue, but Adventure Comics actually was publishing in this format, which was pretty cool. Like, and even this issue of Adventure Comics, which was in the smaller format. I don't even know if it was color. It may have been black and white, but it may have been color as well. But this is a Gil Kane cover. So let's see if Mike's any better.
You don't hear me.
I heard you.
Oh, well, that's good.
So
converse.
Let's try it.
I don't know if you mentioned this during my winked out of this, but what I said in the column reading. Those Archie digests, along with most magazines.
You're winking out again, but I'll repeat the point, um, and that is that those magazines that were at the um, grocery stores and at the counters or the registers were purchased or rented. The space was right,
Right, right.
and that's why people would buy TV Guide, because it was right there and they paid for that. And it will be interesting to see where DC puts these books and what type of you know real estate they get for them.
Well, they go, they're going to have to weigh in or getting their way because that business work. And I encourage them to try to find new markets and try to expand their market.
You're you're hung up. You're hosed. Oh my, Mike. I don't know what's going on
I don't.
tonight.
Since we're live to entertain people,
I
I should
know.
probably I should probably say is unreal and everybody's having a. So I think I'm going to bail.
All right. Well, why don't you see if you can see if you can come back and see if you can hear me in the background or whatever, and we'll see how that goes. I'm going to pull you out right now, and I'm going to talk a little bit, and pretty soon we're going
Okay.
to get our guest in, and we'll talk to that. But you can, even if you just want to sit in the green room, or try and see if maybe what's going on on your internet. All right, we're going to pull you out, Mike. All right. I'm going to pull this back and I'm going to talk to some folks for a little bit. Hopefully, our guests will come sooner or later and you'll won't have to see my face. But we're going to talk about some other stuff. I'm very excited about this digest solution. Number one, it's important for comics to be read, for good comics to be seen by people, because once good comics are seen by people, people will be exposed to the medium. People will want to find more. That's typically what the case is. It doesn't matter what you are experiencing, whether it's you find a TV show that you like on a particular channel, you will then say, "Hey, I like that. Let me go find more of that." And that's what happens with comics. That's why it's always exciting when new people start to read comics for me, because that means that they're going to have the opportunity to go and find more comics to read. Um, and we're hoping Mike will hang out and come back, because I really want to talk to him about some other stuff. But I'm gonna push forward a little bit here. And the other thing I wanted to talk to him about is this, and this is happening this week. The Marvels is coming out, right? It is the latest episode in the MCU franchise. It is um, the 33rd installment of the MCU franchise, if you can believe that. It is. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll tell you why. This is the thing about the Marvels that I'm looking forward to. All three of these characters I have been a fan of for quite some time. Um, I've been a fan of Carol Danvers for a very long time, way before she was Captain Marvel. I started reading her adventures when she was binary. Um, I enjoyed when she came back from being binary and she was Warbird and Ms. Marvel again. Um, I started reading the Avengers when I started to pick up the Avengers off the racks. Monica Rambeau was in the Avengers and she was Captain Marvel at the time. I was a fan of hers at the time. I've enjoyed her career or her adventures up until now. And the current Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan, is just a joy. She is she's a bright light in comics. She has been since the day she showed up, and Marvel has done a good job in maintaining that, even with the weird changes that they're doing now. So Um, I'm looking forward to this movie. The questions I have to everybody: do we need to see everything? Right? Do we need to know um, what has happened before? I have seen, you know, WandaVision. I have seen Captain Marvel. I have seen Ms. Marvel. Is that enough? Because I haven't seen the Loki. I haven't watched season 2 of Loki. I hope we don't need to know that. And I haven't watched Secret Invasion, not because I haven't wanted to. It's just time. Time takes a lot. But these are coming up. This is what we get. We have this movie coming up this weekend, and I am stoked. I am really looking forward to it. I'm gonna try and pop Mike in, see if he has something to say about it.
Well, let's. Do we have anything?
I can hear you. Let's try it.
Okay. I Ms. Marvel is last trailer to the movie, which my uh, I'm watching Loki and enjoying the hell out of it. I saw.
We're almost there. It's I feel like there's something going on in your neighborhood, and it's just it's gonna pick up. Like, I have this feeling because you get like a sentence and a half and then hang. And you look great right this second, but I'm afraid if you talk. And I want to hear you talk. It's one of my favorite things in this world. And look, you're giving me a thumbs up. I don't even know why.
I don't even know I did that.
It does.
Uh,
Your screen does that occasionally. We get some funny, cool stuff from you. But Cherry says
oh,
hi.
hi Sherry, doing? Help me, floundering. Uh,
We're gonna get through this because it's good. So are you excited to see this movie?
yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna see it this weekend. Um,
You
is
hope.
on the edge of their seat, waiting to see how this movie does. There's going around the media that the Marvel failing.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I'm going to pick up on that because one of the things there was a Variety. I think it was Variety. There was an article that came out. Somebody there wanted to, pick it apart, and it's fair game. The interesting thing is that there's this amazing phenomenon that when something is written about something, uh, the general populace, whether they consume that something or not, believe that it is true because someone wrote it. I don't think that's fair, and I'm a big fan of making sure that you know where where the news is coming from and what the agenda of the news is, and you can say that regardless of the topic. But in comics, this is a story somebody wanted to write. Marvel sells everything. It sells movies, it sells TV, it sells toys, it sells comics, it sells magazines who want to talk bad about them.
If you shoot the word Disney, Marvel,
Yeah,
it comes together. This is how they operate. This is how industry, which is barely enough, they operate. And yeah, well, some people are tired of, and get to see they have these movies, and so if they have to like them, giving us a lot of them is just going to make them dislike them more. Then there are the
oh my goodness, I wish I could be hearing what you're saying right now, but
damn.
I know it's like I'm so close to it. I want to come and just plug in, change your plug or something. We're so close there.
I've been plugs and
Yeah, you get like 8 seconds and then slow him
All
back
right.
up.
I have to assume this isn't working, and we'll spend some make
I'm gonna
this work.
pull you out
No,
for now, and we're gonna
yeah,
come back to it.
I
We're gonna do this. We're gonna get through this. We are gonna have a great night tonight, everybody. Hang on with us. So we have Zack Kaplan coming soon. He's gonna be in this. He's gonna be joining us. We're gonna talk about some cool stuff with him. What Mike was saying is important, and I want to come back to it. We'll see what he can figure out in the background. But what he's talking about is, there's this, Disney sells, and people have been waiting to talk badly about this movie. People have been waiting to talk about badly about this movie since it existed, since the concept of it existed. There are unfortunately a bunch of people who want it to do poorly, um, want it to do poorly because of the people who are in the movie, because of the characters who are in the movie, people who want it to do poorly because they're tired of superhero movies. And superhero movies and comic book movies are not the same thing. I want to be clear about that. People should pay attention to that. That there are plenty of movies that are inspired by comic books. Our guest has a couple of things possibly in production, or at least in in option to become, film, that are not superheroes. But the over the proliferation of superhero movies the um, due to the Marvel explosion, the MCU, they did a great job over this time of telling a cohesive narrative that spanned multiple movies, that you didn't have to watch every single one of them, but if you did, you were getting this great story, and I think that's important. Um, what I think is important is not that Marvel movies are getting worse or failing or going to be in this situation. I'm looking forward to this movie, and I want to come back to that. I want to say that very explicitly, that I'm looking forward to this movie. I think that the actresses in this movie are fantastic. I think that the characters that they're doing have been developed in a way that is true to their nature and exciting and invigorating, and I think people should go see it. Um, I'm going to change our little thing here. We'll go back here because we do have our guest in the green room, and I'm going to bring him in very soon. Mike is still trying to check stuff out, and I think he might be doing well. He's still glitchy a little bit, but I'm going to bring in our guest, and I want to do that. I'm going to kind of preface this with his little bio. So Zack Kaplan has become a major player in the comic scene over the last half decade or so. He's consistently putting out excellent, thought-provoking comics that challenge the traditional expectations of where society is and where it's going. He has had books published through Aftershock, Image, Vault, Dark Horse, and others. He has 2 new series starting soon. They're Beyond Real and Kill All Immortals. And we're going to talk about them, and we're going to talk about some more stuff. So welcome in, Zack Kaplan.
Hello.
Hey, Zack.
Hi,
How are you?
Bob. Good. How are you?
Good. It's great.
That was a very nice intro. Thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome. It's great to have you on. I'm a big fan of yours. I really enjoy your work. Before we get started, though, I need to do a little bit of a shout out to David at Cosmic Comics in Linthicum, which is my local comic shop. He's very excited about this interview. When I told him that we were going to talk. He said, "That's my guy." And I said, "Yes, I know he's your guy, and he knows he's your guy, because you and I have talked about this, how much he's rooting for you and how excited he is. He thinks you're the next big thing, and he can't wait to see that happen."
Thank you. That's very kind. Well, hi, Cosmic Comics. If you're listening, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Why comics? It's an easy question. And we do it a lot, but it really sets the tone, and it tells everyone what has brought you here. So why comics?
And I didn't know it was comics for, I found comics, or comics found me.
You originally were going into screenwriting, is that right?
I mean, I went into film and TV writing, and I went to USC film school, and I was out here in Los Angeles pursuing that, writing tons of scripts. I had lots of things happen that nothing ever got made, but I had lots of things in development and pitches and all of that. And I was very excited by all that. And I'd always grown up loving comics, and I kind of always wanted to do a comic. But I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And then I did one. My first one was Image Top Cow's Eclipse. I just loved it. I loved so many aspects about it. First off, I fell in love with the community of comics. And I fell in love with the engagement and the experience. I don't know how to describe it, but it's certainly not the same as film and television. The experience of comics, readers, shops, conventions, podcasters like yourself. There's just so much enthusiasm in a way, and I really love the passion of the whole community, and I really loved the collaborative process of working directly with a group of artists. It was just really amazing.
We're going to try and pop Mike in here as best we can, because he's having a little bit of technical difficulties.
Oh, no.
But
yeah.
He's glitching.
Anything happen? Am I still glitching?
You're still glitching, and I hate it. But I love you. So
all right, I bailed. Talking with you, it's one of the best conversations I've ever. Get the chance again sometime soon.
We will do that. All right. Unfortunately, Mike's having a bad night tonight.
What a bummer.
This. Yeah. I don't know, but we got a bunch of stuff to talk about.
All right.
And we will definitely get you guys together at some point, because you're going to need to do that. What was the most unexpected thing about making comics? And that's kind of what I was kind of getting at. Like, what is, and you kind of was just starting to get at that. What is the most unexpected thing about that process of from thought to book out on the shelves?
It's a great question. I mean, obviously, this is not the right answer, but certainly it's a lot of effort that goes into how much effort goes into and how many people it takes to make a great comic.
Okay.
That's certainly something that was like a learning curve. What it really was for me is working with an artist and marrying my vision and my idea with an artist's vision and their idea. I really love the collaborative effort that goes involved. I really get in the weeds with my artists. I really like to talk about everything: layouts, designs, just the emotionality of a page, the vision for the series. I like to bring lots of ideas to the table. I like to encourage my artists to bring lots of ideas to the table. And I really enjoy that process. And I didn't really understand that process, I think, getting into it. And I really fallen in love with that collaborative process. And I came from a film and TV background where I would go off at my laptop and write a script, and there was none of that. There was, and then if I was fortunate enough, which I wasn't ever, but anyone who writes a film or TV script, they hand it off, and a director takes over and a producer takes over and a cast takes over. And there's a lot of disengagement between, I think, a film and TV writer. TV, sometimes they get more involved if they're also producing their episodes and things, but certainly a screenwriter. If you write a movie, you hand it over and they run with it. And comics was it's just such a wonderful collaborative experience. Colorists, letters, designers, the cover artists, editor bringing their ideas, all these pieces coming together. I really like that collegiate kind of spirit and the passion. And I've been fortunate enough to work with some great creative teams and great publishers. So that was, and when I wanted to do a comic, when I was back, I guess it would be like 2015 me or late 2014 me, when I was trying to get a comic, and I got Eclipse, which was my first comic with Image Top Cow. I had no concept of that collaborative process. I thought, hey Eric Donovan, oh my God, how you doing, buddy? We've tabled a lot together at conventions and stuff and hung out.
He's a good guy. I like him a lot. Great
artist. Yeah, great creator. I thought, like, I turned in a script. I didn't really, it was completely lost on me, the process of making a comic, until I got in and did it, and I loved it. And so I think that was what surprised me the most.
That's something that I was hoping we would get to with you. And so I have something like, you've worked with amazing collaborators. Like, you have worked from artist to colorist to letterer. How rewarding is that? Like, for example, and I'm just going to give you an example. Like,
yeah.
You get colors back from Jordy. Like, what is that like?
Yeah.
Because you had an idea in your head, and I'm sure it's not, I'm sure she took it to a level you never expected.
She sure did. And Fabiana Mascolo, who's the artist on issue 1 of Beyond Real and does artwork throughout the whole series, is an amazing, underrated artist. Just so good, and brings so much emotionality and heart and character. And so, yeah, it needed a colorist that would really bring it on these pages. And we got Jordy Belair, and it was just a dream come true. And yeah, we kind of said, Jordy, here's what we're thinking, but run with it. And yeah, the pages were gorgeous. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to work with someone like Jordy, and it's amazing. God, Beyond Real, for those of you who don't know, we have 7 different artists working on this one series, 2 or 3 different colorists. Hassan Othman Elhau is the single letterer who's doing magic across the whole thing. But yeah, it's amazing group of artists who were all picked for not just that they're good artists, but they bring a distinct kind of voice to the comic experience. That a lot of these artists, you can look at their artwork and go, oh, that's Liana Kangas. Oh, that's Jorge Corona. Oh, that's Vincenzo Riccardi. Like, oh, that's Tony Fazula. Oh yeah. They're like distinct. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's important. Like, one of the things that and we are there, we are agreeing about Jordy. One of the things that's interesting is your lettering partners or collaborators and I am a huge lettering nerd. So, and I say it probably once a show. But Troy is a friend, and he's done a lot of work for you. I love Troy. I think he's done amazing work. Hassan, I think, is one of the top 2, if not the best letterer in the business today, by far.
Yep.
There's a tier that he lives on that most people don't. And
Hassan just hand lettered all of Mindset. Every single bubble in our Vault comic Mindset is hand drawn.
I understand.
Crazy. Yeah,
I know. But so, like, that kind of aspect of comics, and you kind of mentioned it, that collegially is a good word for it. Someone once said to me recently, I have to do the math, but there are more NBA players than there are people making comics today. And so it is a small fraternity or community. It's a better word. And once you're in it and you're part of it and you're part of comics, and you behave, as
Yeah.
long as you behave, you're here. You'll always be here. You'll always be welcome. And so tell me about what the experience of getting that book to come out, right? You come up with an idea, you pitch it, and then you get that book to come out. How much does it change for you from pitch to what the reader gets?
How much does an idea change from the onset when I
Yeah.
first pitch it to when it becomes its own thing?
Sure.
A lot.
A
I think it
lot.
changes a lot. I mean, the vision is the same, and the essence, I think, is the same, but something like Beyond Real, you can't perceive of what the other artists are going to bring to that, especially 7 different artists. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I can imagine a world where everything is personified and nature comes alive, and I can write ambitious double page spreads, and then I can say, hey, Vincenzo Riccardi, the 3 characters are looking at a double page and everything is alive. The hills, the clouds, everything is personified. Go enjoy. And then my job is done. So I can't imagine what that's going to look like. And it could look very different in a lot of different artists' hands. And he brings it to life in a crazy way. So yeah. And then I think, you sometimes, I mean, I've had many books where the story evolves based on the artist you're working with. John Pearson
Mhm.
and I developed, and I've spoken about this, a really intense collaboration on mindset, so much so that I would be, before I even write the scripts, pitching him the issue and getting him to weigh in on artistic choices so that I was writing towards his artistic ideas, because it was becoming so intermingled. So, yeah, it is and I think that's important. I think more and more, I mean, from Eclipse now to Beyond Real and Kill All Immortals, my vision for the book becomes more malleable and more open to the experience that is going to come from it. So it's very important to any new creators out there. You come in, and the most important thing is your kind of why you're telling this book, and the message you want the book to share, and the central kind of plot aspects of it. But it is important to be open to let all the talent and creativity from all your collaborators come in and elevate it.
That's important. That's great. I want to talk about your experience. You're one of the go-to writers for science fiction and create your own space today, that I would say. If there's a new book coming out that's science fiction, I would love for you to be writing it. I think, and you do a great job of it. What attracts you to that genre? What is it about science fiction? Because, and I want to just, if you can give me a second here, like your books, whether it's Join the Future or Mindset or Forever Forward, they're always kind of looking to the future, and they're and Metal Society as well is another great example. There's always a question, are we doing this right? And I think that's the key to it. There's that underlying, hey, let's look at where we are and where we're going, and are we on the right path? I think that's one of the themes to all of your books. Is that fair?
Yes. Yeah, that is fair. Why is that?
Why science fiction? Why is it that you want to do it in this way?
I love, I'm a writer that comes from a place of imagination. I love to dream. I love to think about new worlds, and I really love to experience films, TVs, books, comics that make me think. I like to ask questions and wonder. My favorite types of movies are the ones where you're stuck in the parking lot after talking for an hour before you open up your car door, and you're like, God, we have to talk about this. What did we just see? Or, reading a comic and having to go back to the shop and talk to, the shop about it and say, like, well, oh my God, what's going on in this book? So that's just who I am, and write what you want, and that's kind of the kind of content that I love. And I think very much I feel our place in time right now is very uncertain, and kind of I feel like we live in a world gone mad in a lot of ways, and it keeps it keeps coming out and lots of and I don't have any answers, but I really kind of like looking at different aspects of the world we live in today, and yeah, posing those kinds of questions, and making people think, making myself think. Really, I'm constantly thinking about how technology is affecting us, and where is our future going, and what's it going to be like if robots get here, and what if aliens came, are they really going to blow us up? And so, all this stuff, I find these topics interesting, and I find it really fun to dramatize these ideas, and share them with readers, and let readers kind of join in the conversation.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. Is there something that have you ever gotten to the point where you're taking on a story, and you surprise yourself by something you learn
In research, or in the process of writing the
in the
story?
process of writing the story? Like
Well,
everything, are you comfortable with how you go through the process, and this is what I want to do, and then it comes out, but you never get to the point where you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Have you gotten to that point?
I don't know. I mean, I think I spend a lot of time early on in my development process before I start writing scripts, and I
Hmm.
really answer a lot of my questions about where the story's going. Something like Forever Forward, where I'm thinking about a story where we're going to jump through time again and again, but only forward. So I have to think about what is our future going to look like. I spend a lot of time exploring and brainstorming that world and that subject matter, and what I'm trying to say about the future, before I actually sit down and plot it out. And I guess in those phases, I do find myself answering my own questions, and saying, "Oh, I don't think I think that things are going to get bad and good, and bad and good, and it's going to be cyclical as opposed to just downward." Um,
Hmm.
so I do find that early process of exploring an idea, I do answer the questions a bit more. I mean, I think when I look back on the process, what's so interesting to me is, and I don't intend this, but now I'm on my 9th and 10th creator-owned book, so I can look back at them and kind of go, "Wow, I keep exploring the same kind of uh, the same setup in a lot of different ways, but it is usually a character in a world gone mad trying to figure out how to retain our own humanity." And so, like, there's certain kind of touchstones that probably other creators are going to hit that I'm never going to hit, but I keep coming back to the same type of, even though I have, you know, um, a myriad of different types of characters and a myriad of different type of worlds, it's kind
Right.
of always this like, where are we supposed to be? Where am I supposed to be in this world? How do I fit in? Am I supposed to be moral? Am I supposed to be determined? Am I supposed to be careful? Am I supposed to be isolated? What am I supposed to be? And
Right.
yeah, so it's funny that I always find myself with a
And
character.
that's
Yeah,
that's the interesting thing. Like I've that you kind of boil it down a little bit far, but what I my the higher concept is you're always questioning, like, are we doing this right? Like, whether it's from, and obviously centered around a character, and that's the person whose perspective we're seeing. But yeah, the question is, are we doing this right? Are we going in the right path? Are we doing it the way we're supposed to be? And it's always that question. I think it's fantastic. I want to talk a little bit more specifically about Beyond Real, because
yeah.
there's some interesting things. So can you give us the elevator pitch for Beyond Real? Like, what is this concept? Because I've read the first issue. I'm one of the most cool things about doing this is the opportunity to see things ahead of time, and so I have read the first issue, or at least I think most of it. But it's one of the things that's very important about comics, and there's a progression, and I watch people, I see them go, and sometimes it's immediate, sometimes it's not. and I don't mean to say this is not negative, but like the opening sequence of this book will slam you down in your chair and not let you leave. Like, it is well done, and it is going to grab people. So tell us about the book.
Yeah. It stems from my fascination with simulation theory, which is a very prevalent, gaining popularity idea among scientists and futurists, that we're living inside a simulation, a computer simulation. But I wondered, what if it's not matrixy? So much of the things that we humans create is artistic and creative and imaginative and messy. And why do we always assume that a simulation would be purely structured or this or that? So it looks at that central question. It follows a young artist, June Ward, who's a bit lost in her life. And then she is in a car accident with her boyfriend. And she begins having this kind of strange phenomena that starts to happen to her, and she doesn't really understand it. But basically, the world is a simulation, and she has somehow been granted the power to edit and interact in the simulation and to travel through the layers of it. And she is inspired to travel through. Her boyfriend is injured, and she's gonna rescue him, and so she goes on this kind of very Wizard of Oz type of journey to find the center of the simulation. And as she travels through the layers, we have a different artist drawing each layer. And the whole sci-fi adventure is very much a love letter to artists and creators and the creative process. And as June goes on this journey, we're exploring her own inner turmoil, and kind of as she tries to make sense of herself as an artist.
It's a great idea. It's well executed from what I've seen so far. So I highly recommend it. I want to talk about, it's also free, right?
Yeah.
So
Vault is yes and no. Yes and no.
So Vault is getting a little I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where it's coming from, but they did this with the book that just came out last week.
Christopher Yost, Unnatural Order. Yeah.
Right. Where your local comic shop, local comic shops are encouraged to order a certain amount of the books, and they are at no cost to them. And so, I mean, at our shop, they're not charging. So, but yeah, so it's got to be, it has to be a book that they believe in, that they're willing to do that with, and I can see why they would. But what's that? So, before we get too far, it comes out on December 13th.
It comes out. Yeah, it was initially solicited a bit earlier, but they've bumped the release date to December 13th. The final order cutoff is this Sunday, November 12th. You should definitely reach out to your comic shop and tell them that you want a copy. But yeah, it comes out December 13th. And
so tell me what your perspective on this, on the free.
Yeah, I think it's important to talk about this initiative and set the stage on what's been going on in comics in the past year. Comics had a fantastic boom that surprised everybody in the pandemic, and generally speaking, and while there are outliers and exceptions, comics did really well in 2020 and 2021, and maybe coming into 2022. But as we've come out of the pandemic, the direct market for monthly comics has not been doing as well, and comic retail shops have not been doing as well as they have in the past. Some of them had really hard times during COVID, and that has caught up. Some of them did great, but now they're not. But I think all publishers across the board are talking about this, and there are some exceptions. There are some creators who have built mammoth followings and can do no wrong, and have been coming out with monster hits. But in general, I think people have seen sales constrict. And so I applaud Vault for looking at this. Vault has been a rising star as a comic publisher. In only 6 or 7 years, what they've done is nothing short of incredible. But they're still indie, and there are plenty of shops that still are getting to know Vault. And Vault looked at this situation and said, how can we have comic book shops that are saying, maybe it's better, as we see a constricting market, to cut down on what we order as from indie books. We can't take a chance anymore. We're going to order big too. We're going to order our Something is Killing the Children's and this and that. But you know what? On a new indie book, we'd love to put more on the shelf. We just can't right now. We can't take this chance. And that's preventing readers all over the country from experiencing new independent comics. Vault has an idea to change that, and that is to take the risk out of the hands of the retailer and say, hey, you know what? The first issue's on us. You order as many as you like, retailer, and do what you like. It gets tricky because, you know, they're giving the retailers, they don't want to tell the retailers, you have to give this away for free. Every retail, there are a lot of different types of comic shops out there. And so they're kind of saying to the comic shop, you make the call. So there are some comic shops that say, this is great for me because now I can put 25 on the shelf. I don't have any interest in indies, so I'm going to sell these. This is going to help me to create more of a relationship with Vault.
Sure.
Others are saying, hey, you know what? We have some people that like indies, but they haven't. We want to turn them onto this one, so we're going to give this away for free. So every shop is applying this differently, and I think it's really exciting. I think it's really, really inventive way to make an indie book that I'm super proud of. The whole team is super proud of. This is a love letter to comics and artists, and I think and the creative process. And I think it's. I mean, when I first heard that Unnatural Order had been such a success that they wanted to do it again with Beyond Real, I said, hell yeah, let's go. You know.
Yeah. I think it's great. I think it's good. I've always been a fan of Vault. They constantly take chances that are the right choices to make. And they put out good books, and they get good creators to work together and put out good books. And I'm a big fan of them. I worry, as I'm a huge fan of comic books in every way. I want everyone in comics to be successful. I want everybody in comics to get what they need and what they deserve, and all of those things. I worry, and I am a patron of a local comic shop. I go to Cosmic Comics pretty much every Wednesday. I visit other comic shops whenever I'm traveling, and issue 2 is the hard part, and it bothers me. It's a concern because I'm so glad that that's happening, but there's this problem in and it's not Vault's fault, and it's not the local comic shop's fault, and it's not the creator's fault. There's this problem in the distribution process where people need enough time to get the word of mouth out and to get them to read the book before they have to order the second one. And the shops are hard pressed to make that commitment to buying something that people haven't even read yet.
Yeah. I don't have all the answers.
Oh, I know.
It's a very tricky situation. And I think that attrition rate, I mean, for those of you who don't know, usually if issue 1 sells 20,000 copies, issue 2 is going to sell 10,000 or less. It's usually at least 50. And a lot of books the past year have been seeing that attrition rate go down 60-70%. And so there is this drop off. The trade market is booming. People are excited about graphic novels. They wait. The collector market and the speculation market drives up number 1, and then people drop on number 2. There's a lot of different factors at play. I think it's great to try some different things. I'm excited to see how this does. I hope that it would be wonderful if this puts Beyond Real and Unnatural Order into the hands of more readers, because it's now out there and anyone can try it out. And they say, you know what? I would have never tried this book, but it was in my pull, or it was free and I happened to pick it up. Or my retailer encouraged me to try it because they had it in the shop and they normally don't. and I love it, and I want to subscribe to the series, or I want to wait for the trade. That's the goal. We'll see how it does. It is a brand new idea, and I think everyone in comics is probably watching this idea from afar.
It kind of brings up something that I mentioned before you came on the show. We were talking about the DC's new initiative with the digest size, smaller format comics. And one of the things I said earlier, and I'm going to repeat what's your opinion on. Like, I love the concept of people having access to comics in any form, because what's going to happen is if they get one and they like it, then they're going to want more. And it doesn't matter what medium you're consuming, whether it's TV or music. I like this artist. I'm going to find out more about that person. Or if I watch this TV show, I'm going to find out more about this TV show and watch more of them. And so same thing with comics. Once you start reading a comic book, you're like, oh, if you like it, you're gonna want to find more, which is good for the industry. And so DC doing that, well, it's DC and everything that goes along with that, I think is great for the industry. And I don't know where they're going to end up, how they're going to be accessible to people, but I hope it's good.
I fall in the middle. I don't think that. I think it's good for an industry to try new things. That's how you find something new that works. And I think that's exciting, to try new things. And if it doesn't work, the market will tell everyone that this is not working.
Exactly.
And you're going to see in another year or two, they're not doing that anymore. And you'll know the answer. I don't want comics to completely change. I like comics the way it is, and I like introducing new ideas. I think there is room for both. I don't worry that if free to retailer model takes off, that suddenly every single #1 is going to have to be free and the whole industry is going to have to change. I don't think that's going to happen. But if Vault hits it again and again with this strategy, and this strategy shows that it really works, I wouldn't be surprised to see other players give it a shot. And I think that could be great for comics. And I think it would be the kind of thing that's employed strategically. So we'll see. But I think it's good, especially when we see that the market is suffering in certain places. That is when it is time to try new things. So yeah, fingers crossed.
I agree. I'm looking forward to it. I didn't, as a consumer, I somehow had missed this, and when I walked into the shop, and all of a sudden, the Chris Yost book was, he's like, oh, it's free. I'm like, okay, sounds good. I was getting it anyway, like, I'll pay for it. That was my point. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I want to change topics a little bit, and I want to talk about Kill All Immortals, which is coming out in February. So it's coming from Dark Horse and released in February. Fico Asio on the art, Jody Belair colors, Hassan on the letters. This book seems different from you. It just seems a little different.
Yeah, it is a little different. A little.
What have you found about yourself writing this book? Like, what did you think? Why don't you give us a little, talk about it a little bit, and what's it different for you?
Yeah, it's immortal Vikings. They're Vikings living present day. It turns out that Eric the Red and his 4 adult children discovered a secret form of immortality, and now they're a banking billionaire empire. And the youngest daughter, who's there on that crazy cover, Frey Asvald, she wants out, and she's gonna have to fight through her siblings to get out. I don't want to give too much away about this book. It is predominantly supernatural. I would say there is an aspect of it that could be interpreted as sci-fi, but it is certainly not as sci-fi as all the other books that I've written. It is stepping out just 1 degree into the genre, but it's still a genre story. It's still a supernatural story, but it is a little less. But I will say, I think readers will find the same complex character stories that they're used to from me. I think they're going to find the same thought-provoking landscape. It actually is looking at kind of our relationship with billionaire class and with kind of these lineages that seem to run the world, and kind of our perspective on them. And so it is very much, again, we live in a world here where we allow these immortal dynasties to kind of continue to to maintain power, and how are we supposed to handle that? But yeah, it's my most action-oriented comic. I've got Fico Ossio on as my collaborator.
He's fantastic.
So good. There's so
Mhm.
much energy and vibrancy, and he really brings this character to life. I mean, we came in and said we wanted to make an Erica Slaughter type of character that is kick-ass, but has a ton of heart, a ton of complexity that you really root for right off the bat, and you really don't know where her story is going. And he's just been killer. I mean, we were so happy to get Jordy to come on board for the whole series as our colorist. So I just done Beyond Real with her. I got an issue collaboration with her there, and now we're collaborating on the whole series. Again, amazing work. I cannot wait for everyone to see what she's got planned. And then Hassan is doing the letters, and then the cover there is done by this incredible artist Oliver Barrett, who I stumbled upon his work online, and I was like, I have to have you do this whole series. He does the whole A covers. It's just incredible. And Tom Muller does that amazing logo there that's just so dynamic. It's been just a lot of fun to work on. It is a little, I think, it is my most action comic, and I think I'm excited to show readers that it's not that show this aspect of my writing as well. I've done a lot of world building. I've done a lot of thought-provoking sci-fi aspects, and this is kind of a little more high energy, bloodthirsty action series, which it's a blast.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it. It definitely is hitting all the right notes for me in terms of what I look for in that type of genre. I want to turn back a little bit to Zach. So you said earlier that you grew up reading comics. What comics did you read?
Well, when I was young, and
I like to do this because it tells you a lot about you about you. I also like to do this with people who are younger than me, so I like to see where you came from, because we definitely came from different perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the 80s or so. I mean, I was reading, I'd see Saturday morning cartoons, and I was reading that stuff. So I was reading X-Men and Wolverine. I was reading G.I. Joe. I was reading, probably some Batmans and Spider-Mans here or there. It was all just, I wasn't thinking too much about it. I didn't have any older siblings to kind of expose me to more mature content. I think the first thing that I got into, which was off the beaten path a little bit, was Spawn and maybe the Max. And that was kind of like, ooh, I got something different. But I kind of then got away from comics, and it wasn't until after college, kind of in the early 2000s, that I started to find creator-owned comics again. And that was when I really fell in love with the medium in a way that I hadn't in my childhood. In my childhood, it felt far more frivolous, and then when I found all that stuff, it was far more meaningful. And this was Why the Last Man. This was Preacher. This was God, I mean, so many.
If only there was a Vertigo. If only there was a Vertigo around for you to be writing for.
Right? I know, right? If only. With a V letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had people stay tuned and watch. Check on our YouTube channel. It will be up shortly. I just interviewed Shelley Bond about her newest stuff, and we talked about a lot of stuff like that. And Shelley's a good friend of the show. But yeah, that's where you belong. That's, if only that was there for you.
Yeah.
And thank goodness that there are people out there, taking up the mantle.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go on. Greg Rucka, Queen and Country. I mean, that one was such an amazing espionage spy thriller, and it just blew me away. I mean, I love everything Rick Remender and always have. But I mean, his early work, whether it was Fear Agent or, Deadly Class, Black Science, I mean, that stuff was just so exciting to read. And I just fell in love with all that. And that kind of was when I realized, oh, wow, comics it can be so much more. It can be so original. It can be so unique. And that was when I started to find a lot of meaning and start to think in the back of my mind that, oh, I would like to do this one day. Yeah.
Well, you've done it.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, it's funny. I still feel very new to comics. And I still have so many stories that I want to tell. And
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel new still. The pandemic, I just broke in 2016, and back then I was doing like one book a year, and Eclipse and Port of Earth Eclipse was out of the gate. I did 4 volumes of that, and I did 3 volumes of Port of Earth. And, since then I've been able to move on to more miniseries, which have given me an opportunity to tell more stories, and I've really enjoyed it. So I feel, and I even every year I feel like I learn more and more about understanding the craft, the medium, the industry. Yeah, I'm excited to keep making comics too.
I'm excited for that. What is if you were to look back on something that influenced you, a piece of art in any medium that shook you or molded you, is there one thing that you can say, or multiples, but is there something that you say, man, when I was at a particular point in my life where it mattered a lot, I experienced this thing and it moved me?
It's a good question. Just any movie, TV show, book.
Yeah, it could be. Is there something that you're like, oh, I look back on that and it meant so much to me? And I'll tell you, like, I'll give you an example. I'll throw something with me. Like when my relationship with comics started when I was 8, and I read comics. I read superhero comics. And I've said this before, so I'll say it again. There was a comic book that I read that changed the game, and Mike's not on to hear it, but Mike Gold edited it, and it was The Longbow Hunters. Green Arrow's The Longbow Hunters. There was something about that, and this is one of my fun stories, that book said, oh yeah, these are not just cartoon characters. They're trying to accomplish something. They're trying to live and make the world better, but in ways, but the world doesn't want them there.
Yeah.
So while that story is ostensibly a superhero story, it is not. It is a story about failure. It is a story about love. It is a story about revenge, and it is it changed the game. And I've talked to people over time about it. So that's something that, like, at that point I knew I'm hooked forever. Like, I will never not love comics in any form. And it doesn't matter. It could be I can read hot stuff.
Yeah.
I can read Sandman. I can read, 70s, Justice League, and it's all good because it's all these people behind the pages that are moving their emotions and their ideas and their concepts forward in story, and telling stories is what they do. And so that's what meant a lot to me.
I didn't have that experience with comics in my childhood. I don't think it was until that phase when I was in my early 20s and I was reading some more of those kind of Vertigo sort of books. But I think
I've read Why the Last Man like 3 times, all 60 issues.
So good. I could cite a lot of those, but I'm going to actually cite definitely comics would be Why the Last Man and Deadly Class for sure. Like, blew my mind in a lot of ways. But I would definitely say way back earlier, because I think it will be more telling about who I am and my experience. I grew up in Quad Cities, Iowa for a period of time. And it was cornfields and all. I had cornfields down the street from me. and we used to go run around and play in the cornfields, and I remember E.T. E.T. is imprinted into my mind, and the premise of creeping at the boy who I felt like that was me creeping out to the cornfields, and there's a creature from the stars in there that needs some Reese's Pieces. I mean, that kind of something extraordinary, and an extraordinary world can happen to even the most ordinary people. If you just dream, if you just are open to it. I think that's really stuck with me. I mean, despite the fact that I have this at times cynical skin, or certainly questioning about the world that we live in, I really like to come back to a place of hope and a place of I want to believe that the Elliot in all of us can find a way to solve these problems, that just a good-natured sense of self and love towards a creepy alien in your cornfield can bring everybody, your family, your friends together. Like, we can do this if we only work together. That's a huge part of who I am. And then I kind of age it up and I throw some more mature conflicts onto the fire, and I say, or maybe not sometimes, but like that was that really defined me, I think, as like at heart.
That makes sense. Like, I love that concept. I think that's fair, and I think that's fair about you. I don't think your writing is cynical or depressive or or even negative. I think that what is attractive to me about the way you write and the questions you're asking is you're asking those questions from a place of hope.
Yeah,
From a
totally.
from a place of love for humanity and existence, and that you are hoping that we can all figure it out together to succeed.
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
think that's the thread that we were talking about earlier, that it doesn't come from a place of this is all terrible and we're all going to fail.
no, Eclipse was my first comic. It's a world where sunlight will burn you alive if you go outside. We have fun killing people with sunlight. The main character is a solar engineer who lost his family when this cataclysm happened, and we meet him, and he works the day shift so he doesn't have to see anybody else, and he is while everyone else is sleeping nocturnally, and he's looking up at the sun hoping that there could be better. Even though he is grizzled and isolated, it's a redemption story for him. Metal Society is a world where humanity and robots have been flipped. Humanity has gone extinct. Robots have taken over. They bring back humans as slave labor to clean up trash and do the jobs they don't want to do. Our main character is engineered to pick up trash for the rest of her life. And all she can do at the beginning is look at this majestic robot city and say, wouldn't it be great to live among them? And so, yeah, there is this, when we're facing enslavement or cataclysmic post-apocalyptic collapse, our humanity is still the best part of us, and we still want to reach out and connect and say, could this be better, and how so? And a lot of times I believe the answer is just connection. Sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, but yeah, that is an aspect of writing and storytelling that really defines me, and that's why I cite E.T., because
That's great.
It's like just heart, in a sci-fi skin. And so, yeah,
I think that it literally heart,
yeah, yeah, literally, yeah, phone home.
Yeah, that's great. I really appreciate it. I want to go back and kind of talk, because you were saying that on Sunday, on Monday, right?
Yeah.
Beyond Real is,
I think it's Sunday. Some of I think lunar.
This week.
Yeah.
When you go tomorrow to your
Yeah.
shop, make sure you tell them that you want Beyond Real, that it's the new book from Vault coming out. And again, I want to state for anybody who hasn't seen it yet, 'cause I luckily have. Just fantastic. Just blown away. there's a very important skill that writers have that I do not have, that I admire tremendously, when you can immediately open up a book and be captivated by a couple's dialogue, right? There's a dialogue that goes on at the beginning of this book between two people who I've never met before, who I've never seen before, and I'm immediately captivated by what their story is. And then, there's an event that happens, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, and you're stopped. You're like, oh, wait a second, I wanted more of that, and all of a sudden now you're presented with another solution, and and the same feeling that you have, the protagonist has, because they want more of that. And it seems to me that the whole story will be her trying to find that.
I mean, the story is two things. It is a story of self-discovery for
Mhm,
sure. It's also a love story. And
mhm.
I think it is my most love story of all. And it's a very ethereal love story, but it's a very
How
meaningful love story. Yeah.
how was that? Because it's true. You're not, you know, you haven't been known for great love, not bad love. You're not a love story writer per se. Um, uh, how is that exploring those types of more deeper emotions that are related to
I
romance?
loved it. I loved it. I actually think that I have this in me, and I've been wanting to do a love story for a while. I think that I actually have done some love stories, but they
Sure.
were not romantic love stories. But I mean, Eclipse is a love story between a surrogate
Right.
father and a surrogate daughter. Join the Future has a father daughter
Sure. And I love that.
loves. And so I have not done it in a romantic way, but I really loved doing it here, and I really enjoyed it. I think that it's something that a lot of people, I don't know, maybe I'm not true. I love reading comics with love stories. It's something sweet and wonderful about it, and so I don't know. I don't want to say there's not a lot, but um anyway, I enjoyed doing it, and yeah, I would like to do more of it. And it was very interesting here, and this is definitely a very mature relationship because they're very different people. They have very
Yeah.
different perspectives on life. Uh, and she's going to save him, and you don't know if she is going to be able to save him or not. You don't know if she should save him or not. You don't know what's real and what's not. There's a lot of subjectivity to this, and I had a lot of fun playing with those layers. But yeah, in terms of writing the opening and this couple, I spent a lot of time on it, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that
Thank you.
it came out the way it did. I want to thank you for being here tonight, Zach. It was fantastic.
Thank you,
I
Bob. It's a
appreciate it.
pleasure. Really. Yeah. Thank you.
Really great ideas, great thoughts, great conversation. Again,
I'm sorry that Mike couldn't join us, but we'll have to try it
we'll
again.
figure that out. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities to do this
Yeah.
in the future with you. And thanks again. I'm going to let you go.
Thank you.
And everybody, please remember to take a look at that book. It's coming out in December, and then Kill All Immortals in February. I can't wait for that one as well.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Zach.
much. Thank you, Bob.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I got a couple of more things to say before we leave, and that is that next week we are going to be live again. Hopefully, Mike's stuff's figured out, but we will have Steve Orlando on the show next week. We're going to talk about his new book, "Feeding Dangerously," that he's written with Jose Andres, and that is going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to get Steve on the show. Hopefully, Mike's there, and we can get Mike and Steve together because I don't think we've done that in quite a while. Also, I want to keep everybody in the loop. Please go ahead and like this page or follow this page wherever you're watching it. Subscribe, because we're going to be coming at you pretty much every week for as much of the rest of the year as we can. Following Steve next week, we're going to have a huge guest, and it is something that I never expected that we'd be able to get on the show. So please stay tuned. We will tell you next week who our guest is the following week. And Steve Orlando, again, next week, same time, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. We will be live with you. Make sure you check out popculturesquad.com. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, because coming up in the next day or so, there will be a recorded interview that we did with Shelley Bond about her new Kickstarter, which is really great, and we want you to get behind that. Again, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks everybody for being here on Pop Culture Squadcast. We are really looking forward to keeping you guys entertained for the next, century or so.
This has been a production of the Pop Culture Squad Network. PopCultureSquad.com. How do you nerd?